So, we're finally here. We're finally at the end. Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy, Manga Man Drew, and I'm here to do my final breakdown for My Hero Academia Season 8, the final season, Episode 11. And there is a lot that we really need to go over in this episode, from a lot of brand new additions made to the core part of the episode, to just the ending credits itself that adds so much to the ending that it makes this episode the perfect ending for My Hero Academia. All of that and more will be discussed in this episode, and before we get to it, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't done so, to subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit that bell, and leave a like on the video to show that you like to see more content like this. I'll try to make more My Hero themed content even though the anime is over, because Vigilantes will be coming out in the next few months, so I may do breakdown reviews and maybe even reactions of that. But with that out the way, let's just dive right into this breakdown and review. And to start off, the episode is titled My Hero Academia, which takes its name from manga chapter 430, as well as the actual name of the manga itself. And when it comes to the episode itself, it covers new material from chapters 429, pages 3 through 4, as well as pages 14 through 19, as well as the entirety of chapter 430, as well as covering material from chapter 431, as well as material that is from the Ultra Age, the final fan book for My Hero Academia. And with that in mind, there is a lot that we really need to go over, so let's start off with the beginning of the episode. There are a lot of changes and additions that we need to talk about. For starters, the episode starts off with a continuation of cut material that would have ended the previous episode, but starts this one. The anime shows Hawks and All Might talking about revamping the hero billboard charts, with the anime expanding on Koki Teramoto's backstory, where we get to see the true cruelty of hero society and the evils of man. Because the anime expands on Koki Teramo's backstory by showing more of his past, including the moments his family deemed his quirk dangerous and later locked him up in the basement and sewed his mouth shut. Which, the sewing of the mouth happened in both the anime and the manga, but it's still vastly and shockingly cruel that they were willing to do that, especially with the context of it having nothing to do with his quirk. As well as with this, the anime does depict Koki's quirk to be not just a sludgy darkness, but also a purpley haze. And while this is a great addition to the story of Koki, I am still not a fan of how the anime dealt with the changes between the manga and the anime with the introduction of this character, because it makes what we later get in this section a little bit abrupt when it comes to its resolution. Because while Koki eventually makes his way to a main road, the anime does add to it by showing his darkness quirk being more rampant and rampaging more than what we saw in the manga, as we see it coming from his hands and his feet and begins to spread as people are reacting, as we see a clearer view of what Koiki sees in this moment, as well as how the anime has it be in a sort of sepia tone grayish scale to indicate that he is not seeing the world in color. Eventually we do get it concluding with the same lady that could have saved Tomura saving this young man, bringing color to his life, and a slight change occurring where Deku and Uraraka arrive on the scene with a random person on the side, replacing where Ida would have been in the manga. While the entire resolution was quicker and should have taken up the entirety of the epilogue from episode to episode, still how the anime was able to conclude this part of the epilogue was still done fantastically in my opinion. And while there are a small amount of changes within the beginning of this episode, those changes get bigger and bigger the further we get into the episode. And after the OP, we have Deku's narration like in the manga. However, the anime replays the first scene from the anime and manga as an old style film reel, where we see Deku being bullied as a kid, where his most famous line of "not all people are created equal" plays, but then it's added upon with the greater context of what Deku has learned over his first year or so at UA, where while everyone is different, those differences is what is able to bring everyone together, and that is what he learned at the age of 17, which coincides with how old he would have been by the time he defeated All For One and Tomura Shigaraki. and that this was an interesting addition, most likely to emphasize that My Hero Academia is a story being told and that this is a unique way of portraying it. And it's from here where we get a lot of changes, additions, and expansions. Because from here, we see Deku as an adult, and more specifically, a teacher with Kota and Koki in the background of UA in the UA uniform. And from this moment, Deku gives a pretty similar narration as he does in the manga, but the anime begins to adapt the double page spread from the final chapter in an amazing way, which is a montage of Class A in their final years at UA, which is actually greatly expanded in the anime. And I'll try to list all of the expansions made from this section between the anime and the manga, but some things may be missed, either because they were additions, changes, or just left out. So let's go over the changes and expansions, starting off with All Might is shown still recovering in a wheelchair in the anime, being supported by Gran Torino, while in the manga he's not in a wheelchair and he is the one supporting Torino. Deku's returning home is more detailed in the anime, but we don't clearly see 3 sets of shoes like it was in the manga, implying that his father has not returned in the anime, but has in the manga. Present Mic is showing supporting the kids when they are writing their tests in the anime, while it's not seen in the manga who it is in that testing site. As well as something that is added to the anime is Mirko flying in the streets, as she is shown alongside Mount Lady and Kamui Woods in the anime, where she's just suiting up in the manga and is not in the same panel of Mount Lady and Kamui Woods in the manga. We also get to see more of Class A as they are shown exercising together, but we don't see members of Class B as we see them in the manga, as well as the anime adds to the scene by implying that they're preparing for another hero license exam, meaning that they have to keep it up each year within the new system. There are also a few cut panels that were not adapted to the anime, which includes the moment where Melissa reunites with the class, as well as Hawks and Tokoyami talking, which are both omitted from the anime. Then, the anime makes it more explicit that the grave that Eraserhead and Present Mic are visiting in the manga is actually Obero's, as well as adding purple flowers to allude to Midnight and her death. And then there's something that the anime changes with one of the panels, because the panel of Endeavor with the sidekicks and Ray in the manga is replaced with a new moment of Endeavor continuing to talk to Toya with Ray by his side as well. And then we also show something that is expanded upon from the manga and the anime, which is that we are shown in the anime of several people seeing Spinner's The League of Villains book on sale and contemplating buying it, as well as we get to see clearly that Mr. Compress is still in jail reading the book in the anime versus just seeing the book and him reading it in the manga. And the final thing that the anime did was greatly expand on the 3rd year UA graduation, where we get to see Tenya's speech in full, as well as we get to see every student of Class A receiving their diploma in the anime. And this is probably the start of the major animation additions made to the anime that greatly improves and build upon the story of My Hero Academia, in my opinion, because all of these scenes add to moments that we wanted to see a little bit more in detail in the manga, and we get that in the anime. So I'm glad that the anime was able to expand upon these scenes to the extent that they were able to do. While they could have done more, what they already did was fantastic. But there's still more that we need to go over, because there are still some scenes that are pretty much the same but expanded upon, such as with Eri and Kota going to school, Shoji getting an award, as well as the students just staying together, hanging out with the students supporting Bakugo's recovery, as well as just Deku and Uraraka hanging out. And how all of this is even concluded with the major panels of Deku finally losing One for All and the embers inside of him, but it's done so with a change in the dialogue between the anime and the manga, with the change fitting more for the anime being episodic and saying that the story still continues because there's still more of the episode left, as we begin the transition to 8 years later with a time skip. Because from here, a lot of what we're getting is just going to be expanding upon what was already present in the manga, with some slight changes here and there. Because there are more changes and additions to come as we get to the 8-year time skip, showing the character Dai, who made his first appearance in chapter 258, or in episode 113, or season 5, episode 25 of the My Hero Academia anime, where we see him and his classmates discussing what they want to do when they grow up. Where it's here, very much like in the manga, where we see certain character cameos like Mei Hatsume, Gentle Criminal, and La Brava, where we get these scenes expanded upon with a lot more liveliness and animation with it, in comparison to the scene where we just get Dr. Yoshi. But it's also here where we get the conflict going on with Dai, as he wants to be a hero but doesn't think that he is cut for that job. And that when he's feeling this way, he begins to approach an All Might statue, as we get some more added information about the heroes that we know and love. Because we see that the anime does show the posters of advertisements from older heroes like Gang, Orca, Shishido, Wash, and the character from one of Horikoshi's older works, Astro. We get that both in the anime and the manga. However, the anime does barely add another hero cameo via Uwabami, the snake hero that Momo as well as Kendo worked with. But you can barely see it in the anime on the side, but it's very much cut off. But yes, that's the moment that we get with Dai as we cut over to another character's perspective. Because the moment that we get here are very much improved on from what we get in the manga. For starters, we have a transition between Dai and the other heroes that we talk about to be done via a news bulletin, which is a nice touch and a well way of showing off that these heroes are being televised in real time. And going on to the heroes that we see, we actually get very much like in the manga, seeing Shoji receiving an Imura Peace Prize, but in the anime, he removes his mask to give the speech, while in the manga, he remains masked. And how this is a nice change, as it shows that Shoji is no longer afraid to show his scars, and he wears them with pride. And next on this bulletin, we get more added information on the reveal that Uraraka, Ida, Momo, and Tsuyu are working together on more of Uraraka's quirk counseling and improving it, as we get more of seeing Ochako's quirk counseling sessions in real time and showing what it looks like in the anime versus the implications in the manga. As well as with that being shown, we also get to see Eri incorporated more into the world in more detail in the anime, showing her in front of the news bulletin versus the manga where it's just a white background. And how this all leads and builds up to cutting over to Deku having a conversation with Aizawa more as equals and teachers about their former classmates and friends. Because they are talking about how Bakugo is still as brash as ever, and that Shoto is coming up in the hero rankings. As we get more added details about the conversation in the anime, as we get shots of Mount Lady Kamui with Shoto, Mirio, Neto, Monoma, as well as Juzo, and how they're shown when Izuku is talking about their places in the hero billboard charts in the anime, which is absent from the manga. And how this leads eventually to Deku remembering more about his life as a hero, and how he still yearns to be a hero, as the anime adds more to the scene by not only just showing the students of UA training, but also showing and implying the class that Deku is currently teaching. Which is a great addition to the anime, because while we know that Deku is a teacher, in the manga, we never clearly see him teaching, or really acting as a teacher proper. So having the anime having these pictures of him showing him both being happy as well as being an actual teacher really adds to the idea of Deku wanting to be in this profession. But even though he's happy and wanting to be in this profession, he still feels sad that he can no longer be a hero because he no longer has a quirk. And it's from here where we cut over to Deku walking through the city, as we get even more scenes from the manga animated involving Toru and Tokoyami's work outside of heroics, Jiro and Kaminari's offices being next to each other, as well as Kirishima's origins being televised, as well as the statue being clearly depicted of the members of Class A better in the anime than it was in the manga. As this is the moment in the episode where Deku's and Dai's paths meet up, as Deku and Dai try to save a kid from falling, which Dai fails, but Deku succeeds. Where Dai recognizes Deku, and we lead into a moment where Dai questions whether or not he could be a hero, with Deku and him standing in front of an All Might statue, but this time, very much like the anime, expanded upon seeing more regular civilians, implying that being a hero is not just limited to being an actual pro hero, but has now been expanded to anyone who is willing to lend a helping hand. And that eventually Deku leaves Dai with pretty much the same words that All Might left him with, that he can be a hero. And it's from here where Deku begins to accept that while he can't be a professional hero, he's still happy in his line of work, as seemingly the episode ends. However, this is a straight adaptation from the manga, where it shows the end credits of the manga with All Might taking it down, which is seen very much in the anime of All Might taking down the end credits as well, which actually leads to the moment that everyone was looking forward to. Because as the episode appears to end and we get the scene of All Might crushing the ending sign, as we get the reveal that Deku is getting his own hero suit like All Might had during the war, which allows him to be able to be a hero again. And how this scene is added upon in the anime versus the manga with pretty much similar dialogue and emotional beats, but is amplified more by actually seeing more animation of what the suit looks like when it's being formed around Deku's body, as well as it actually being seen around Deku's hand, which is the hand that is normally needed to be reinforced because it's the hand that he's damaged the most throughout the series, showing a little bit more thematic relevance to the actual suit while also adding a little bit more emotional moments to it. As we also get some major changes between the anime and the manga of Deku being driven to the location of his fellow classmates who are offering a hand and supporting him on his journey to be a hero again, as we get an added moment of actually seeing Deku transition into the new hero suit and flying away, as we get a scene of all of the classmates of Class A, even Aoyama, in their adult forms, in their more updated hero costumes, as in the anime, unlike in the manga where we just get a still frame of them flying through the air as Deku reflects on the fact that Shigaraki is smiling and Hawks has so much free time, in the anime, it's a little bit different. In the anime, we do actually see them fly off into the air. However, how they do it is very much an homage to the first anime opening of My Hero Academia. In this moment, we actually get to see every member of Class A flying through the air in their own unique way, as kids are looking up at them, flying and happy and rejoicing. Really just showing how much these characters have grown, but still willing to stay together as friends, as this is the true end of My Hero Academia as the indie begins to play. As we get the title drop of the episode here being My Hero Academia, which would have been a perfect end to the episode itself if not for the credits. Because like I said, the ending credits contain more new information from chapters 431, the Ultra Age, the Final Fan Book, and anime original content. And let's start off with the information that we are going to potentially get in an OVA of chapter 431 with information that we learned from that chapter. Hagakure goes independent and recruits Aoyama, who later became a hero, as well as her sidekick. Ochako and Tsuyu frequently teaming up to do quirk counseling, Koda working as Shoji's sidekick, as well as Jiro and Denki having hero agencies next to each other due to Denki being anxious going independent on his own. Which is actually interesting that we don't get a lot from chapter 431, however we do get a lot from the Ultra Age, the Final Fan Book, which is that we also get to see Hagakure's face becoming visible on duty, which is granted her public attention, but the anime shows this takes place during a Christmas event with her reflecting a massive amount of light on top of a Christmas tree thanks to Aoyama. We also get Kirishima getting media attention from his zealous comments while Mina is popular with the young crowd. as well as we get Kirishima's chivalrous calendar selling out upon release, as well as we get Mina keeping her fans captivated by entertaining dancing events. We also got Ochako and Tsuyu both started out during their sidekick gigs before becoming independent. As well as we get to see that Shoji and Koda dealing with human rights issues for those with heteromorphic quirks more in the countryside. And we also get Eri continuing to play and sing with Jiro as the anime shows her as well as Jiro and Dinky joining in and playing guitar alongside them. As well as we get information about Ojiro planning to open up a martial arts studio as well as receiving advice from Sato. We get Tenya inheriting the Ingenium agency with Tensei recovering from his injuries with support items, and how the anime depicts the items as bracers from his legs that presumably help him walk upright. We also have Sero becoming more popular despite his non-flashy quirk, while Mineta didn't receive the same warm reception. As well as from the Masagi Elementary School is now putting on an annual event called the 5 Wiwis Festival in Shoto's honor, as well as we learned that Izuku is teaching history at UA. So yes, that's a lot of the information that we would have learned from the Ultra Age, the final data book that is actually put in the anime itself, which means that there is information in the anime that we most likely would not have gotten for a little while because the Ultra Age data book hasn't been released in English yet. And finally, let's go over some anime original content that was neither in the fan book or in the manga from chapter 431, which is that apparently Ojiro and Sato are being widely popular with both genders. Shinzo is engaged in an organized crime deep cover operation, as well as Shinzo and Fumikage Tokoyami are frequently teaming up as mysterious men lurking in the shadows. As well as we learn that the Ingenium agency primarily assists with lost children, as well as we get to see Momo doing plenty of research and being involved in many global projects. We also learned that Shoto was ranked 8th on the Hero Billboard chart right after going independent, as well as we get to see Katsuki is shown hanging out with Best Genius in a mostly recovered headshot, as we also learned that he's very popular with the older pro heroes. And finally, we learned that one of Izuku's classes at UA involves the students mingling with the younger kids. And all of these smaller additions are great because it shows that the anime knows these characters a lot, because all of this works within the story and the information that we know about these characters. And how the final moments of the episode and this entire series ends with the story continues and that we should always go beyond. And yeah, that is the entire breakdown and review of this episode of My Hero Academia. I'm making this video a little bit later because there's a lot that we really needed to go over and a lot that I needed to jot down in my script. But yeah, this was a lot. I thought that one of my previous videos was the longest breakdown and review. Nope, it's definitely this one. So it may take a while for this video to actually come out, but that's because there was a lot of additions that were made to the episode that, in my opinion, make this episode the perfect end for My Hero Academia. Because a lot of complaints that people had towards the story are pretty much given within this episode, especially at the end, such as getting to see more of the characters of Class A doing hero work and doing work outside of being heroes, getting a little bit more expansions upon what we got in their final years at UA. And just so much more was added to this final episode to really make the ending of My Hero Academia even a better experience in the anime than it was in the manga. And hopefully it's not just me feeling this. Hopefully everyone in the community is truly seeing how perfect of an end this is for My Hero Academia. But yeah, what else can I say? Great animation, great storytelling, great additions, music cues were on point. This episode was nearly perfect. But let me ask you this. How did you feel about the episode? And how did you feel about My Hero Academia as a series overall? Leave your thoughts down below, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content like this. Do all that cool jazz, and hopefully I'll be able to catch you in my next video. Goodbye. And go beyond plus ultra. Huh.